So while Ygni's design is spot on, I found out that the developers took drastic liberties with his unit description. He went from a vengeful Mughal dead set on taking King Mog's head, to a workaholic introvert dead set on research and study. Ygni's Trustmaster reward is a materia that boosts magic by 50% and HP by 20% when holding a short sword. If you participate in the limited time event that occurs at this video's release, you can upgrade it with a recipe, which will give it a bonus boost to equipment magic. So hopefully you're not watching this a month later. His Super Trustmaster reward is a short sword, and is currently the strongest magic short sword in the game. The bonus effect is nice, boosting HP and equipment magic when dual wielding. Onto his active abilities. Ygni's abilities are physical attacks that deal magic damage. Sweeping Blades deals increased damage to break gauges of a short sword. Vitality Fountain gives Ygni a HP regen, enables a quintuple cast, and activates an area effect that tells you what the ability does. Which means I go to the wiki and oh, it raises magic. Okay, I guess it raises magic. Novice Spell, Fire, deals damage that scales with morale, inflicts an 80% full break, and Chains of Chaos Wave Awaken. Reciprocal Incantation Chains of Absolute Zero, raises Ygni's fire and dark resistance by 100%, and fills the morale gauge. Laws of Nature Chains of Bolting Strike, gives Ygni a strong fairy and human killer, boosts his limber burst gauge fill rate by 150%, and fills the morale gauge by the same amount. Advanced Spell, Fire, deals fire damage that Chains of Chaos Wave Awaken, and imbues fire onto Ygni, and boosts his fire damage by a whopping 50%. Energy Calibration Chains of Chaos Wave Awaken and get stronger with each use. Gemini Enchantment will apply any of Ygni's stat buffs, killer buffs, and elemental imbues onto the rest of your team, and then boost the damage modifier of something. Help me, Wiki! It's all physical attacks that aren't a limit burst. Seared Wisdom imbues fire onto an ally, raises their fire damage by 30%, and lowers their fire resistance by 100%. But on the bright side, for one turn, it also lets them absorb fire damage. However, the rest of the effects last for 3 turns, and though the positives are nice, the imperil can be disastrous depending on which enemy they're facing. Smart use will be crucial here. Debilitating Hex deals damage that scales with morale, and lowers the enemy's attack and magic by a strong 85%. Fruits of Research can be used twice per battle. It removes any of the enemy's buffs, inflicts an 85% full break for good measure, and raises Ygni's stats by 300%. Passives. With his Trustmaster reward or Super Trustmaster reward equipped, he gets the ever-important Chain Cap boost when he's dual wielding. Furthermore, his normal attack will change to Chain with Stardust Ray and inflicts a 75% full break. Those aren't the only changes, as he also gets a Guts buff and the MP regen. He deals increased damage to humans and fairies more so than humans, and prefers to hold 2 weapons. When he enters the battle, he'll automatically get access to Incendiary Theory, which lowers the enemy's fire resistance by 120%, cures any magic breaks on Ygni, boosts his magic by 250%, and enables Incendiary Experiment, which improves the imperil to 130%, cures any breaks on Ygni, boosts his magic by 300%, and enables Incendiary Test, which in turn lets Ygni use Novice Spell Fire when the morale gauge is above a certain level. Novice Spell Fire is Novice Spell Fire. All that build up for something you already know. Let's look at his Limit Burst. It's a physical attack that deals fire magic damage. Compared to the rest of its abilities, it's surprisingly simple. Time to change forms. Ygni has a true Brave Shift, which has no limitations whatsoever. Onto his active abilities. All of Ygni's new abilities chain with Chaos Wave Awaken. In this form, most of Ygni's abilities remain physical attacks that deal magic damage. There are some outliers, but I'll tell you about that when we get there. Shrouding Veil deals dark damage that scales with morale, inflicts an 80% full break, and hurts Ygni. Pneuma Manipulation drains HP, and applies the enemy's stat buffs and elemental resistances onto Ygni, and while it deals magic damage, it's not a physical attack. A Study of Darkness deals dark damage, imbues dark onto Ygni, raises his dark damage by 50%, and really hurts Ygni. Soul Projection lowers the enemy's dark resistance by 130%, deals non-elemental magic damage that partially ignores the enemy's spirit, and then hurts Ygni as well. Floating Shadow imbues dark onto your entire team, and raises their dark damage by 30%. Unlike Seared Wisdom, it is not single target, nor does it come with any demerits. Unfortunately, it also lacks the elemental absorption, and the effect's duration still doesn't match the cooldown. Seal of Doom is a single hit attack that deals dark damage that gets stronger with morale, and lowers the enemy's defense and spirit by 85%. The Secret of Life can be used twice per battle. It drains someone else's MP, but removes any breaks, stop, charm, and berserk from your team, completely restores Ygni's health, and after a turn, automatically activates the Secret of Life, which, despite having the same name, is a completely different ability. It grants your team an HP and MP regen for 2 turns, which is nice, considering he just drained one ally's MP a short while ago. Passives. When Ygni's HP falls below 80%, he'll boost his magic by 300%, which shouldn't be hard to meet. While his HP is below 50%, he'll gain an HP regen. When the morale gauge is above a certain level, he'll get access to Shrouding Veil, which is literally Shrouding Veil. His other passives remain the same, though it should be noted that his elemental resistance flip-flops between forms. Let's look at his Limit Burst. It's a physical attack that deals magic dark damage, lowers the enemy's fire and dark resistance by 135%, and grants Ygni a HP regen. Let's rank Brave abilities. I'd prioritize Analysis, Humans vs Fairies to raise the killer buffs, Soul Projection to deal more damage, and Energy Calibration to deal more damage. You don't actually have to raise Energy Calibration, considering Soul Projection is stronger overall due to partially ignoring the enemy spirit, but I suppose there may be times you'd rather stick with his base form. Time to make a damage rotation. On turn 1, activate his Brave Shift. Cast Vitality Fountain, a Study of Darkness, and double cast Soul Projection. From here, you prioritize his Brave Shift's Limit Burst to get the 135% Impero on, but it should be noted that Ygni has a severe lack of Limit Burst damage buffs, which will need to be addressed. Otherwise, on turn 2, quadruple cast Soul Projection and cast a Chain of Seal of Doom. On turn 3, quintuple cast Soul Projection. Turn 4 will be a repeat of turn 2. On turn 5, his quintuple cast wears off, so cast Vitality Fountain and triple cast Soul Projection. On turn 6, cast a Study of Darkness, triple cast Soul Projection, and cast a Chain of Seal of Doom. As you can see, his buffs will be staggered due to their different turn durations and cooldowns, though you can pair Vitality Fountain and a Study of Darkness together if you're willing to sacrifice damage for coherence. Regardless, from this point forward just spam Soul Projection and Seal of Doom, while carefully managing his buffs. So how good is Ygni? As a physical attacker that deals magic damage, Ygni is given far more levity by not being locked into any given element. He still has tools that let him use fire and dark attacks, and, as expected, he quite excels at them. One worrisome point is on his Brave Shift, what with his tendencies to hurt himself as he attacks. Luckily, if you've forgotten to bring a dedicated healer, Ygni does have his own HP regen, which is tied to his quintuple cast, ensuring you won't forget it anytime soon. In terms of support, as I suspected, he's no Mastermind Zong. While he can spread stat buffs, killer buffs, and elemental imbues, he can't choose to copy any, which limits the given buffs to his own. Luckily, it does come with an additional modifier buff to all physical attacks, granting it an extra bonus. However, those are the only things he can spread. His incredible elemental damage bonuses will be limited to himself, though he can grant a smaller elemental damage buff depending on the ability. Despite the ability to copy the enemy's elemental resistance, he'll be the only one who benefits from that. While it's true that his support potential isn't completely neglected, he won't be quite as reliable as an actual dedicated support, true to his form as a primary magic damage dealer. Nevertheless, he can be a potential boon to your team, with the ability to clear the enemy's buffs, supply a steady flow of breaks, and raise morale because don't you just feel energized when you look at this? Admittedly, with his quintuple casting chains, it's common to feel some kind of deficiency since the majority of units quadruple cast at most. He does have a capping ability to offset this, but it is on the cooldown. However, there is a counter to this. Simply switch between forms to use his second capping cooldown ability, and switch back and forth with his true Brave Shift to maintain his tempo. It'd actually be a more reliable and interesting rotation, if it weren't for the unfortunate drop in damage. Though really, whether or not it's more optimal depends on the units you're using. Overall, Ygni is incredibly solid, boasting all the tools necessary for a strong magic damage dealer, and brings forth some additional effects on top of that. His damage absolutely skyrockets in Clash of Wills with the bonuses to morale, and even outside of it he still takes one of the top spots in terms of magic damage. Admittedly, he won't overthrow such a Descendant Aerith with her Reflected Holy, but he'll be more than a match for Louise with all her innate buffs. It does kind of hurt that he doesn't have that many passive self buffs, which would be on you, the player, to address. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, leave a like and subscribe. Comment below if you get Ygni. He definitely still looks very terrifying, though the new unit description drastically scales that back. Which one do you prefer?